Okay, boys and girls, we are starting lesson 6, amphibians. And I got a little sound effect here of this frog, which I thought was kind of cute. Anyway. All right, now, in this lesson, we are going to be talking about amphibians, what amphibians are, and the life cycle of an amphibian. Excuse me. So that by the end, you'll be able to tell about the life cycle of amphibians. Here is a picture of just a few of the different types of amphibians. We have frogs, salamanders, I hope I say this right, but caecilian, a toad, and a newt, okay? These are all different kinds of amphibians. And amphibians are animals that can live, if you remember, on land and in water, okay? Now, this is some good information about amphibians, okay? It tells us quite a bit about them. So I'm going to read it to you so that you can learn a little bit more about the frogs. Frogs come in different sizes, patterns, colors, and shapes. Some are smaller than your finger, while others are as large as a football. Frogs can be found on every continent in the world except for Antarctica, but they can only live in fresh water sources, not salt water. And we talked about that with fish, that some fish can only live in fresh and not salt water, and some fish can only live in salt water and not fresh water. Well, these frogs can only live in fresh water. They are typically found near bodies of water that are slower moving, like ponds, lakes, and marshes. Frogs are cold-blooded. This means their bodies stay the same temperature as the water or air around them. They are carnivorous and love to eat flies and mosquitoes. They also eat other insects and small animals like spiders, grasshoppers, and earthworms. Have you ever noticed that a frog has very big eyes? Their eyes bulge out of the sides of their head, and they can see all around them in almost every direction. They use their excellent eyesight to watch for prey, and for protection from predators. Frogs have sticky tongues in the front of their mouth and use it to catch their meals. In a flash, they can catch their prey by wrapping their tongues around it and snap it back into their mouth. Nothing compares to a frog's powerful back legs. Their webbed feet help them leap long distances as well as swim. Some frogs can jump up to 10 times their length. Frogs are great at camouflaging themselves or blending into their environment. That's why you may hear the croaking of a frog before you actually see him. Some frogs can even change the color of their skin depending on its surroundings. Birds, fish, and reptiles prey on frogs. However, one of the major predators of all amphibians, including frogs and toads, are humans. Water pollution and loss of habitat are two of the main ways that people have disturbed the environment, okay? Now we're hearing a lot about that, about making sure that we keep our environment clean and healthy and safe for these different types of animals. Right here it says, did you know a toad's skin lets out a bitter taste and a smell that burns the eyes of the predator, much like a skunk does? Well, I didn't know that. I did know that, but the only reason I did know that was because my dog decided he was going to try to lick a toad one night, and it didn't go very well for my dog. He had a terrible, terrible look on his face by the time it was over. All right, let's look at this video about fantastic frogs.
You've seen them, you've heard them. Now let's meet some frogs. These interesting animals can live part of their lives in water and part on land, which makes them amphibians. This word means double life. When in the water, frogs can breathe through their skin. When on land, they use their lungs. Can you believe there are about 4,000 types of frogs? They come in a lot of colors and patterns too. And they're found all over the world, but most live in the tropical rainforest. Brightly colored frogs are sometimes called the jewels of the rainforest. They come in just about every color combination you can think of. Yellow and black, red and black, even bright blue. These colors warn other animals to stay away. Hey, don't eat me. I'm poisonous.
Some frogs have colors or markings that make them hard to find. This is called camouflage. This is our mossy tree frog. He's green and black to blend into his environment. He lives on the rock walls of caves and on the green moss of trees. So he has the bumpy skin, as you can see, and this also
needs to rest on a log. He can change his color from green to brown to match his surroundings. How cool is that? Wouldn't it be fun if we could do that too? Frogs come in different sizes. This smooth-sided toad is about 8 inches long and is the largest frog we have here in the San Diego Zoo. Our smallest frogs are golden mantellas. This female is only about a half an inch long. Hey, come back here. All frogs hop, right? Don't jump to conclusions just yet. There are lots of ways to get around.
Frogs have long legs for hopping and climbing. Check out the legs on this folding leaf frog. The folding leaf frog with its long legs can climb up and down tree branches like you would climb a ladder. Some frogs have sticky feet that help them get a grip that won't slip. Take a look at this Bornean-eared frog. Each of his toes have a pad covered with tiny bumps that help the frog climb rough surfaces, like tree bark or rocks. Between the bumps is a sticky mucus. The mucus gives the frog clinging power on slippery surfaces, like wet leaves.
Some frogs are most at home in the water. Now, people often say this Suriname toad looks a lot like a dead leaf, but watch her come to life. See that webbing between her toes? It helps her swim. And then there's the tomato frog. He doesn't move much at all because he's so brown. Instead, he just waits for his next meal to walk by. What a life. What's one thing all frogs have in common? They love to eat. Do insects, snails, worms, spiders sound tasty? No, they do if you're a frog. What's really cool? Frogs help keep the world's insect population under control. Thanks, frogs. You rock.
Okay. So, frogs are very colorful, beautiful animals. Some of them are kind of slimy, which I'm not going to pick one up anytime soon, but I do like the fact that they take care of all the mosquitoes and flies and insects that might be in your backyard that you don't necessarily want back there. All right. Okay. Now, the life cycle of a frog. It says frogs go through many changes. Frogs go through many changes in their lives. A mother frog lays many eggs in the water. This group of eggs is called a spawn. In 2 or 3 days, the eggs hatch, and the tadpole has a tail for swimming. After a week, the tadpole will grow 2 back legs. 12 weeks later, the tadpole will develop lungs and grow 2 front legs. It will need lungs to live outside the water. Frogs are amphibians, meaning both lives, because they can live in both in and out of the water. Now the frog is called a froglet and can breathe air. It takes a total of 4 months for the frog to lose its tail completely. The process a frog goes through is called metamorphosis. During metamorphosis, animals change appearance as they grow from young to an adult. Can you think of any other animals that go through metamorphosis? So let's look at this. You start off with the adult frog. The adult frog lays eggs. Those eggs hatch and become an early tadpole, and the early little tadpole has a little tail to help it swim. Then a few weeks later, the tadpole is called a late tadpole, and it has legs that is changing, is going through metamorphosis, still has its tail. Then it goes into a froglet. The froglet now still has his tail, but he has front legs and back legs. And then finally, the adult frog, and the adult frog has completely lost his tail and still has front and back legs. And if you also notice, each stage, the animal looks very different. So it's not like reptiles or mammals where their babies look a lot like them when they're born. They go through many different phases. And the question I had was, do you know any other animals that go through metamorphosis? And if I had to think of one, it would probably be the butterfly, because the butterfly does go through metamorphosis from an egg into a caterpillar, and then the cocoon, and then into a butterfly. Okay? Alright, now this says, print the activity or complete on notebook paper. What you're going to do is you are going to draw the stages of the frog life cycle below. So if you don't have a printer and you can't print it out, just draw out the square, put the frog life cycle there, and then draw a picture of the eggs, the tadpole with legs, the froglet, and then the frog. And you can always look back on your chart over here to help you if you need that. Again, if you have any questions, you can always get in touch with me on Blooms or during the Microsoft Teams office hours. Okay? All right, tomorrow we are talking about insects. I think you're going to like it. I think it's going to be fun. And I did put a little sound effect on that one too. Okay? See you then.